Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1 minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning. Welcome to today's edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Not football. Not football. Well, okay, maybe later. but for right now, folks, for the next hour, let's talk cars and batteries and magic lights. You'll hear a little bit about that. Bosch, and not Bosch and Lom, but Bosch Auto Parts. And I mentioned Bosch because yours truly was qualified and was selected as the first authorized Bosch service center in the state of Florida and the 8th in the nation in 1986. And at that time, Bosch supplied 75% of all fuel-injected parts in the world. And Bosch was the first company to install ABS brakes on an automobile. They did not invent the ABS brakes. They did, however, create the oxygen sensor. They did not invent the technology, but they did invent the automotive technology, application for automobiles. Bosch is world-renowned. They're unbelievably educated, to say the least, but also in the aftermarket, number one, and probably OEM as far as supplying. But let's talk about what's going on. How about in Daytona? Why don't we take a quick trip? Yeah, stay with me. We'll come back and we'll hook you up with Terry Savison from Daytona Beach and see what's going on there. And then I'll take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. Here.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts, and your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with power frame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with power frame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with power frame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with power frame technology inside. Look for power frame on the outside, and know there's true strength on the inside.
Let's dive into another Car Clinic email. Dear Bobby, my vehicle has just gone out of warranty. It has 48,000 miles, and now all maintenance is my responsibility. Can you suggest a maintenance checklist? I'd like to keep this vehicle long-term. Assuming your vehicle is about 4 years old and has just under 50,000 miles on the odometer, we suggest starting with the fluids. Think brake fluid, transmission fluid, and of course coolant. The cooling system is often overlooked. While coolant and cooling systems have evolved through the years, they still need service. Have the cooling system flushed and refilled with a proper antifreeze coolant for your specific vehicle, and inspect all belts and hoses. And don't forget the thermostat and radiator cap. Complete the system service with a new Stant Superstat and a new Stant radiator pressure cap. This is a great way to extend the life of all cooling system components and add reliability to your vehicle. Stant products meet or exceed OE quality in both fit and function. Learn more at stant.com. That's stant.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Special day today, as it is always every Saturday from 10 till noon. Yours truly right here from the center of the automotive universe, which actually is a beautiful studio that's the place to be in case of a hurricane or heaven forbid we should have another. We don't want that, but our tornado, it's like bulletproof. It's a billet almost. It's the floor weighs 10,000 pounds. The walls are 4 inches thick, and it's very well built, designed by yours truly and our team, and constructed by the acoustic systems in Austin, Texas. But more about that later. What we're going to do now is we're going to take you to Daytona as I promised. In the meantime, please call in earlier today than later because we ran out of time last week, which is the norm. So the number's 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Let's take a quick trip. Go with me, or come with me, to Daytona Beach. And we have the Motorsports director of WNDB 1150 AM live that's going to give us his vision of what's going on in Daytona Beach as we speak. Terry Sabiston. Terry, glad to have you back in the house, man.
Glad to be here back in my house, I call it,
okay.
Daytona International Speedway. It's a beautiful day. And, Bobby, I come out here all the time. I probably spend as much time as Daytona International Speedway as people who work here. There's not a time that I come through that tunnel that my heart doesn't start pounding, and
I think we lost you. His cell phone. He'll call back. Yeah, we lost you, Terry. That's okay. Call back. And to that end, Terry was talking about not a time that you go through the tunnel, and it is exciting because you really don't get the impact of the field and the infield and the track until you exit the tunnel, and it's like another world. And it is. It literally is like another world. You drive through, and you come off International Raceway Boulevard, you drive through the tunnel, and when you do, bam, you're right there in the track. I can tell you a little story about that, but let's go ahead and put Terry back on. I'm sure that's him dialing back in. So, yeah, that's Terry. Okay. Hey, my friend, we lost you there, but that's okay. That's live radio. You okay? We with us now?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I did. I just took up where you left off talking about driving through the tunnel. And, Terry, I remember the first time that I ever went to Daytona years ago, and I said, well, that's a pretty big place. And then when you drive through the tunnel, it's like into another world. It's like an orbit that you're at warp speed. And now, even more so, since Rising Daytona and the track's overhaul. But anyway, look, what's going on there today?
Well, the turkey run, 6,000 cars out here. I estimated over 150,000 people for the weekend. This goes on for 4 days. Started Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 8 to 4. And it's the most amazing car show I've ever been to. It's just one car after another that puts you in awe. I'm standing like 30 feet from a lime green Superbird. Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
Right next to it's a Cuda. Right next to that's a 60 Mustang. And then if I swing over here, I got a 32 Packard with a 454 in it. It's been fully modernized. Yeah, it's just one extreme to the other. And then you got the rat rods over in the distance that are the craziest vehicles you ever seen that don't look like they should run at all. And they're seeing who has the best looking rat rod out here today. So we've got the people are out, got here at 8 o'clock this morning. It took us a half an hour to get from the gate out at Williamson to get to the entrance into the infield.
Now, wait a minute. Let's back up. You said the best-looking rat rod. That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
I'm full of oxymorons today. I mean, it's crazy. It's amazing. Every turn you look, the rat rods, they don't look like they should even run. They're rusted pieces of junk is what they look like. But some of them got the most amazing motors in them. Some of them got, the oldest looking dice you've ever seen hanging off the mirror. The seats don't look like you ever want to sit in them. But when they fire them up, every one of them runs.
Well, to that end,
they're so proud of them.
To that end, there's a gentleman who is passed now. His name was Ted Ciano, and he was the Southeast #1 Ford dealership and Key Ford for years and years and years. And whenever Ford would come out with a car that wasn't really pretty, or another company like Pontiac came out with the Aztec. You remember the Aztec, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And so Mr. Ciano's favorite word was there's a butt for every seat. He didn't use the word but I'd say, well, who would buy that car? He said, well, somebody will buy it. And indeed, when I look at a rat rod, and folks, for those of you who don't know what a rat rod is, easy for you to say, it is like you went in a garage and you found an old frame, an old piece of a fender, maybe not the two fenders that match, and then to make it ugly, you just welded it all together, and then for a seat, you could use a Coke flat. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it's not a part of the sport, if you call that a sport, that is my favorite because I like fit and finish and polish and all the I want the comforts of life and the race power and all the things that go with it. But Terry, those cars are unbelievably fast, and yeah, they all work. I mean, they all got to work. So 150,000 cars. Where does everyone stay in Daytona?
Well, how about 6,000 cars, 150,000 people? That's just it. Every hotel room here is full in Daytona right now. And we have another thing on top of that. We have a Pop Warner Championship football thing going on here in Daytona with about 10,000 kids playing football at every football field within 10 miles on every Thanksgiving. So you factor the turkey run in that in, and you've got every motel is booked full within 20 miles.
That is amazing. I know there's been studies performed, and this is for all the city founders and fathers across the nation who are tuned into Bobby Likis Car Clinic right now. Think about the economic effect that racing has had on Daytona Beach, and to go back to '59 when the France family built that track. And Terry, it's just, I mean, Daytona is indeed. I mean, you've got Detroit, that is Motor City, and you've got Daytona. And there's some other, of course, racetracks, Indianapolis 500, but literally, when I think of racing and race tracks, I think of Daytona Speedway, International Speedway, and I think of Indianapolis, Indiana, and those are the two that come to mind. Now, I know that Texas Motor Speedway, those guys would, really not like it if I left them out, but no comparison. No, really? But 6,000 cars, that is just absolutely amazing. What about do they have late model cars there and concept cars as well?
We've got what we call a car corral where you can bring out your car and sell it. Now, some of the prices on these cars are outrageous. I don't think they're trying to sell them, but they're showing them off. And you name it, it's out here. Every kind of car you can imagine. We've got the new 2018 Camaro out here. They've got this is the 50th anniversary of the Camaro, and we've got an 18 Camaro out here that's been, I think they've added a few extra accessories to it, to be truthful.
So now, from your schedule, from your standpoint, you got there at early this morning, and then will you be there all day long? And are you on WNDB there? Are you covering the track area live and different events?
We're here 10 to 12 today. I'm doing updates, but I'm going to be here all day long. I'll be posting on on the WNDB Twitter account at 1150 WNDB, all kinds of pictures. It's nonstop. There's something new every corner you turn around. I'm standing here right now looking at the mile-long stadium, and that's the new stadium. The Motorsports Stadium is just amazing what they've done with it, and that's something else. We've got Christmas going on here at the Speedway along with this. We've got the magic of lights.
You do. I want to share. Oh, the magic of lights. Yes, I was going to make a little statement about the stadium. That's a factoid, but I'd rather hear about the magic of lights. I mean, that's a holiday display. Tell us about that.
Well, I've had they invited the media out last week when we rode through, but was it Wednesday night? WNDB got to lead the parade as they opened it up at about 5:30. And what they've done is underneath the stadium, they've got a company that came out and put animated lights and lights all the way through underneath the stadium. And you start all the way down in turn 4 outside the stadium. You come around turn 4, which has lights and trees, and you come behind the ticket office. And then you go underneath the stadium, and there's Christmas music. They have their local radio station that you can pick it up on, and you tune into that. You've got Christmas music, and you ride through the lights. And it's 1.5 miles long underneath the stadium, and then you come back around the front and you get to see the front side of the stadium where all the injectors are, and they've got a tunnel of lights there as you come out. But it takes about 35-40 minutes to roll through it a couple miles an hour, and it's just amazing, the work and the detail. And they've got a nativity scene. They've got the 12 days of Christmas. They've got a Jewish menorah. There's so much there. I've been through it twice, and I keep seeing more every time I go through. And I'm probably going to go through again. It costs $20. That goes to Orman Hospital Memorial Foundation, and so it's a fundraiser for them, which is also who handles the Infield Care Center here at the Speedway. So it's a neat, fun, Christmassy way to enjoy Daytona International Speedway. And they got a special going on for the Turkey Run.
Wow.
If you go to the Turkey Run, you can go through there, I think, for $10 instead of $20.
Hey, Terry, got to go. Thank you so much, and stay tuned and keep us posted every time. Appreciate you, buddy. There you go, folks. We'll come back. Folks, we're testing an Intune i2 performance programmer from Diablo Sport, and we'll share feedback and results over the next few months. First is ease of installation. Directions were clear and the setup was easy. The Intune i2 is preloaded with dyno and street-tested performance programs developed specifically for your car or truck, ensuring optimal power and drivability gains. From there, you can then customize a tune tailored to your own performance needs. What a great way to boost power without even popping the hood. Diablo Sport Intune i2 has a fantastic look and now features the latest generation ARM processor for a higher resolution screen and an exceptionally responsive touchpad. You can update your i2 software on virtually any computer, Windows, Mac, Linux, and update times are fast. Even the large updates take no more than 5 minutes. I'll report more to you about the Intune i2 in the coming weeks. In the meantime, check out the i2 for yourself at DiabloSport.com. That's DiabloSport.com. Another question from the Car Clinic inbox. Dear Bobby, I've driven a company car for years, so I haven't had the need to shop for tires in a long time. My daughter is away at school and is going to need new tires when she comes home for a break. She drives a late model Ford Fusion. Any advice? Absolutely. Knowledge is power, so my first suggestion is to log on to a reputable website with great information. I recommend GeneralTire.com, which actually features a tire selector that allows you to search for tires by make, model, or tire size. In terms of specific tires for your daughter's Fusion, General just came out with its G-Max AS05, a terrific all-season tire with excellent handling and tread wear characteristics. And the G-Max AS05 also features a number of technological advancements that would be new since the last time you shopped for tires. Visual alignment indicators actually extend tire life by identifying vehicle misalignment, and Replace Tire Monitor technology alerts you when a change of tires is needed. That's GeneralTire.com. Good luck with your daughter's Fusion.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back. Sorry we had to rush Terry off the air there, but the clock ticks and we have hard breaks. So again, always a pleasure to hear from Terry Saveston, Director of Motorsports for WNDB, 1150 AM in Daytona Beach. And a special hello to everyone in that area, Ormond Beach as well. It's like home to me. We've been there several times, produced several remote broadcasts, a dozen actually, from that area. And we've been to Kearney, Nebraska, Effingham, Illinois, Owego, not Owego, New York. Where was it? Where Sarasota? Saratoga. From the racetrack. I mean, horses on the hoof or horses under the hood. Well, we actually said, why don't we have this remote broadcast from the racetrack in Saratoga? Of course, that was the idea of a gentleman named Bob Dunn, who was our national syndicator for years and years and years. And he used to come up there and he'd say, Bobby, you've got to come up here and do this broadcast from up here. And I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But speaking of New York, we're going to take a call from John in New York. And then I'm going to share with you one of my most embarrassing moments, frustrating moments in the past 26 years that we have hosted this program. But first, let's go to John in New York. John, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yes, good morning, Bobby.
Morning,
thanks
sir.
for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Okay. 2005 Pontiac Grand Prix.
Okay.
P1125 code. Okay, I looked that up. Accelerator pedal positioning sensor.
Okay.
I haven't worked on one of these by wire ones. I'm looking. Where's the cable? No, there's no more cable. It's all by wire.
No, I know.
So, because I called the parts place up, I said, do you have a throttle positioning sensor, like the old ones were called? And the guy couldn't find it. And of course, because that's not what it's called in this car. Anyways, this car will crank over, but it won't start. Okay. Fuel pump works. There's pressure at the fuel rail. I'm reading some notes here. It's not my car. The person said they're driving down the road. On the little display in the center comes up reduced engine power.
Yeah.
She said some mechanic told her that's a computer resetting. I said, what? Resetting what? I don't know. And I know this mechanic. Geez, I thought the guy knew whatever. But and then, so anyways, I did put another accelerator pedal position sensor. I thought, oh, this is easy. Like most mechanics, I hate working under a dashboard, but whatever. And then it cranks over, won't start. I think I know what the problem is. I don't think it has a spark, but I got to have somebody help me check that out.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point, John. You know if you have compression and you can listen to the, you can tell if it has compression. So number one, and you wouldn't lose that all at one time, not on the 05 Pontiac. Not like a timing belt car. So you have to have compression, and you have to have fuel, and you have to have ignition. So you have fuel, you said, at the rail, but that doesn't mean that the injectors are opening, so it doesn't mean the car has fuel. Here's what I suggest that you do, and this is a real simple, if you have starter fluid, or if you don't have starter fluid, you could use hairspray. I mean, literally, anything that's flammable, and let someone spin it over and then spray starter fluid into the air box where the air filter is, and if it runs, as long as you're spraying fuel into it, auxiliary fuel, then you know that everything's okay as far as compression and ignition. You're just not getting any fuel into the cylinder. Just because you're getting it to the fuel rail, you still have to open the injectors. And then that will give you an idea. I mean, you can have something so simple here as a crank position sensor, which tells and let's make it simple. You turn the key, you spin the starter. During that cycle, the cranking cycle, where the starter is going, power goes to the fuel pump. Although the power has a different route when an engine is running, but during the cranking mode, power goes directly to the fuel pump and fires it. The computer opens the injectors, and then, but only after the computer sees the engine is turning over. How does it know the engine is turning over? By the crank position sensor. So that would be the simplest. I mean, gosh, man, if you had a crank position sensor that was bad and replaced it and it cured it, I'd be your hero. But that's the first thing I would check. First thing you do is you spray. Easiest thing is you spray auxiliary fuel or some fuel flammable source into the mouth of the engine, and if it cranks and runs, you know that the ignition's okay and those things are okay, but the fuel's not getting in the motor. But
okay, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot to tell you, I did do that to back up my theory that it wasn't fuel.
Wait.
I did spray.
So what?
Sprayed the starter fluid in the air intake, yeah, and it didn't start.
Well, that's a good thing. Because now we know.
What I thought too,
yeah, sure. Because you're on the right track, so you're already ahead of me. Well, good. Then I would put, just for grins. I mean, you don't have to get on the dash for this. Just for grins, I would replace. I say for grins because you could spend days working on this vehicle. I mean, even my pros get stumped, and we really. I mean, we had a Dodge van in here. For like 3 weeks that had bad rockers and bad followers and bad camshafts and had to put a set of heads on it. And I will tell you, that was not an easy job. And this was a business owner's van. He used it for a delivery. And ultimately, when we finished the mechanical repairs on this vehicle, there was an electrical problem not associated with, but not there when the car first came in. The car came in running very poorly with 200 pounds of cylinder pressure on one cylinder on the back side, and on the front side of this V6, it had 110 pounds of pressure. So it was a camshaft that was worn, and the high compression was because the valves weren't opening properly, and so they were trapping the air, and that's where the 200 psi pressure came from. We put the new heads on, and the car cranked and ran, but it would crank and go dead, and crank and go dead. And then once it set a code, it would crank and run. It's like, I'm not going to run until I set this code. And the bottom line is, we did have to reprogram the computer because the computer kept making amends for a poor engine running, and when we fixed the engine, the computer says, "Hey, I don't recognize that engine. I want the old engine back." And we had to say, "Wait a minute, time out here." Now you said your mechanic reset the computer. You could call it that, but we had to reprogram and put the system through what's called a relearn. That's not anything to do with your problem. And I think if I were you, I would put a crankshaft position sensor. And it could very well be an igniter, which is the ignition system. I guess, back up. You're going to test ignition, so why don't you do that first?
Yeah. You think it's more the crankshaft sensor or the ignition control module?
Well, the crank sensor, I was getting ahead of myself. The crank sensor, the crank sensor has to see the crankshaft turning over before it sends a signal to the computer for the computer to open the injectors or for the computer to fire the ignition. So if the computer, you spin the starter all day long, but if the computer doesn't get a signal from the crankshaft, it doesn't know the motor's turning over.
Yeah, this car ran beautiful. The person parked it.
Yeah.
Went out to start it, and it wouldn't start. Just cranked over.
Yeah.
And they're going, what happened? I said, well, these things just happen like that.
I know.
Something went.
I know. I had a customer that had a Mercedes that had an airbag to go bad. He said, well, it had like 90,000 miles. He said, well, what causes that? Well, you know what? Time and wear and age caused that. We did a service on my car yesterday. It has 48,000 miles on it. And so we did an inspection with an oil change. And you know, we looked it over, and Johnny came back. He said, okay, your tread on your front tires, you're going to be needing front tires. I knew that. And he said, the rear sway bar link and the rear tie rod end link on the differential, the links are okay. The rubber boots, now granted, this is a 2013 automobile, and it's absolutely make no sense that these rubbers could be bad, and yet the rubber seals on the rear tie rods and the rear sway bar links are deteriorated. One's rubber and one looks like a little nylon type booty, and they're bad. And the tie rod ends like $300. I mean, really? And John, here's the bad news. It's the Jaguar, and this is a common problem for the cars that come out of the UK. It's for rubber bushings to go bad, and you can't. In 50,000 miles, you can't hurt a rubber bushing unless you're doing, cross country, in the woods. I mean, give me a break here. So anyway, back to you.
Okay, I didn't know if I should go after the crank positioning sensor or the ignition control module, which looks like that's pretty expensive. But I understand if the ignition control module doesn't get a signal from the crank sensor, then you're not going to have any spark.
Yes, so, but you'd have to have the proper equipment to test for the crank position sensor, or you could just go to O'Reilly Auto Parts and buy a crankshaft positioning sensor and put it on the car. I mean, I don't like to throw parts at the car, but you're not getting paid for this. And crank position sensor is that's really a nit. They're not expensive, especially on a GM, an 05 GM. So I sort of, even if it had an ignition module, you would not be wasting money to put a new crank position sensor, because that's a common item that goes bad, and when it does, that car won't run.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. And it's the cheaper of the two parts. So
yeah.
Well, I want to see what you thought. What I should go after, which part. And
well, the fact that you've already you've already put fake fuel in it, so you already know that it's not a question of fuel. It's a question of ignition spark. So I'll leave it up to you because I'm not there. And again, I think the position sensor is probably the easiest thing to go. You could have to have both. I mean, you could have coils, but you wouldn't. All the coils wouldn't go out at one time. I mean, you'd have misfires on one or two cylinders. You wouldn't have a no start, no run. But you can check the codes and go from there. And just clear the codes. Now. One thing, I'll let you go, but one thing, just because you disconnect the battery, that's not going to clear the codes. You have to have a machine that clears the codes in an OBD2 car, just for you to know. You got that?
Will my code reader be good enough to clear them or no?
I don't know. I think it will, yes. I think it will. Hey, good luck, my friend. Thank you for your call. Nice talking with you. Okay, not football day. Well, it's football day, but not football here. Cars here, 888 Car Clinic. Today's vehicles have more than 150 electrical accessories for safety, comfort, and sustainability, 7 times the number 20 years ago. Only AGM batteries are precision engineered to meet this electrical demand by reliably supporting backup cameras, start-stop technology, and many other devices. AGM batteries have longer life than standard flooded batteries and will not spill acid during installation or during an accident. When you need a new battery, insist on an AGM battery to meet today's evolving electrical needs.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but morning's knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Terrific program today. Folks, get ready. Call 888 Car Clinic and I'll help you solve your car challenges. More than 250,000 vehicles have rolled through my shop, and I'll bet I can help you with your car care. And speaking of car care, on the hotline with us now is Rich White, Executive Director of the Car Care Council. You've heard me talk about the Car Care Council. I'm excited to have Rich in the house. Rich, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you very much, Bobby. It's a pleasure to be with you.
You know, weather's changing and colder temperatures are here. So, Rich, share with our car clinic listeners and viewers why it's important to prepare your car for winter and what really goes into winterizing a car.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, harsh winter weather, it takes a toll on the vehicle and it takes a toll on the driver too, stress level. Everything seems to be exaggerated in the winter and things are harder to do. But, you know, bottom line is, you know, a vehicle that's properly prepared for the winter can really help you avoid any unplanned emergencies that happen on the road or on your way to work. You want the peace of mind. You want to be able to depend on your car that when you get up in the morning and you go out there, that car is going to start. And there's some simple things you can do to have that peace of mind and that dependability of your vehicle.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, and let's shift forward just a few days. As we all know, the holidays are upon us, but and I presume that everyone's going to, at the New Year's resolutions, I don't know about you, and folks, I don't know about you tuned in, but we all have some resolution. What about car care? I mean, let's think about that. Making the decision to keep your current vehicle and then pledging to step up regarding vehicle maintenance is really key to, as Rich is saying, solving car challenges and having that peace of mind. So, Rich, is there a plan that our car clinic listeners and viewers can follow to get started?
Yeah, there sure is a plan. It's very simple, some of which you can do yourself. Some you'd want to rely on a professional technician. But bottom line is, if one of your resolutions, and many folks have this resolution, and if that is to save money, don't buy a new car if you don't need to buy a new car. Keep that car of yours. They're built better. They last longer. And if you take care of your vehicle in the same way you should be taking care of your health, you know, like you have regular dental checkups and regular physicals, and if you just take preventive care of your vehicle, it's going to last a long time. You know, vehicles are lasting almost 12 years now. The average car on the road is 12 years. And my last car, I had 220,000 miles on it,
Wow.
and it was still running great. But you know, average cost of a car is about $34,000 now.
Wow.
That's a pretty hefty ticket. And especially if you've already paid your car off, what a wonderful thing. But besides the ticket price on the car, Usually a new car is going to come with higher insurance. In some states, property taxes. So there's other associated costs with a new car. But as I said, there's some simple things you can do to keep your car healthy and lasting longer and postponing that, that new ticket cost. But regular maintenance is really the key.
Yes.
Just take it to the professional technician periodically. Take a look at the warning signs, just like you would, as I said, like your health. The vehicles have a way of communicating trouble, especially these days with the dashboard warning lights and check engine lights and different things, and sounds and smells. So pay attention to those things and then have them taken care of early on through regular maintenance, and then they're not going to turn into expensive repairs later on down the road.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and so all of the proactive maintenance items that Rich is sharing, folks, will save you. In fact, the specs and the stats are that for every dollar, and Rich, you correct me if I'm wrong, but for every dollar spent on maintenance, car owners can save $6 in repairs. And I think that's a very conservative estimate given the price of repairs today versus being proactive. Let's shift gears. I know that people are planning trips for the holidays, and most folks, as we all do, have the option to drive or fly. So in your experience, Rich, share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers some of the benefits of driving versus flying.
Bobby, this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about because it's such a no-brainer to me. And I do practice what I preach. There are so many reasons that you should consider driving on that road trip prior to vacations, or whether it's winter, summer, or fall, as opposed to flying. It's much less stressful, and if you look at a family of 4, you can travel on a 1,000-mile round trip car trip for about the cost of one airline ticket. But even regardless of if you get a really good airline ticket, there are so many ways you can save money by driving. And let me just mention a few of that because it's just so interesting. You can leave when you want, from where you want. You can pack as much or whatever you want. There's no carry-on restrictions in your car. You want to take a quart of suntan lotion or something, you can throw it in the car. You don't wait in long ticket counter lines or rental car lines. You don't have to worry about weather delays, that are occurring somewhere between where you're flying to and from. No baggage problems. You can have whatever you want to eat. Meal options. No parking. More leg room. Who you're sitting next to. I could go on and on and on. So it just makes an awful lot of sense to drive if you can, as opposed to the hassles of air travel.
Well, all that makes a lot of sense, and for that matter, because we've all driven and we've all flown, I never really put together the very simplest of things that you mentioned, and that list could go on. As you were thinking, I said, and especially when you talked about the lotion, because my wife always carries tons of her, well, she doesn't on the plane, but she does in the car, because she has her bag that's all secured. And so it makes an awful lot of sense, and especially if you have kids, there's no question about that. I know for folks that might be planning a holiday road trip now, especially after hearing our conversation here, I understand that you have some advice about how to save money, of course, and to avoid vehicle breakdowns, and you call them the 3 Ps. Share with us what those 3 Ps might be.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, there's 3 Ps: prepare, prevent, and plan. So you can save money and you can avoid breakdowns, have a little peace of mind, stress-free driving. So preparing, you just want to conduct a pre-trip vehicle inspection, whether you do it in your driveway or your garage or you have your neighborhood technician do that. Give the car a thorough check to make sure everything is working properly. And then prevent, the second P. Last thing you want as a driver or a passenger is to break down out there on the highway. So you want to do a pre-winter checkup just to avoid being stranded in the cold. And you're out on some highway and you don't want to go through emergency towing and then repairs at a repair shop that you don't know don't know who they are. And then planning, plan your route. Save money on mileage, take the best route, maximize the savings. Go ahead and plan to have an emergency kit. I mean, if something does happen, have, jumper cables, an atlas, and a first aid kit, flashlight, things like that, water in your car. Just be prepared. So prepare, prevent, and plan. It just makes common sense.
It does make common sense. And there's one more really great asset that I see that the Car Care Council provides. And we've recently shared this with our Car Clinic listeners, the general service schedule. And so, Rich, I recently logged into and joined the Car Care Council website. As I understand, that website is carcare.org, correct?
Yes, carcare.org. It has so much information and content and answers so many questions a vehicle owner, operator, driver would have about, what their vehicle needs, why it needs it, why maintenance is important, checklists, all sorts of information is on there. It's all free of charge. And you can even view a car care guide that, has a ton of it. It's about 80 pages. It's also available in print version, so if someone wanted to order it, they're free of charge. You can order it right online. It's the Car Care Guide. It's easy to find on the website. So might make a good stocking stuffer.
Absolutely. And in closing, at that site, folks, you can customize and input. All you have to do is just join. And this is an organization, so it's not like, that you're going to get junk mail. This is absolutely an easy way for you to maintain your automobile. And I personally input my car, the make, model, the VIN, and the number of miles, and then customizes, and I can download and have downloaded a maintenance schedule. Now, I know the maintenance schedule, but I don't know it all. No one knows it all. So what an easy application, and what an easy guide to saving you money. And as I say, Rich, and here on the Car Clinic, keep your car in your garage and out of my garage. So, hey, I really appreciate you joining us. Rich White, Executive Director, the Car Care Council. Go to carcare.org. Rich, thank you so much for joining us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Great to have you.
Thank you, Bobby. My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. He's a neat guy because he understands, of course, service and maintenance and automobiles. Been there for a long time. But Rich White, not in the studio, but via phone. But I've met him personally and worked with him, and I will tell you, there's so much information that they produce, and I'm glad to be able to share with you folks the fact that you can go to the carcare.org and download. There's a general service schedule there, and another little factoid that a recent survey by the Car Care Council found that, and get these numbers. I want to share these with you because if your car falls in this category, shame on you. 25% of the cars, these are cars that are inspected, had low or dirty oil. And I will tell you, just like as I mentioned earlier today, we had this Dodge van in that had 113,000 miles, and we had to put a set of heads on the vehicle because the camshafts wore out. Now, to me, I would really not like, well, no one likes to have an engine wear at 113,000, but I can tell you there's no excuse for that. The only thing that would cause that, and you wouldn't get a one-off because these heads were easily available. And it was the 4-cam 3.6 engine, I think it was. But that was a really difficult repair with timing chains and tensioners and followers. And the followers are roller. You guys out there that are tuned in that have race cars, these are roller rocker arms. Really? At 113,000 miles? It should be 500,000 miles. So what is it? Is it a Chrysler thing, or is it a lubrication? I don't know, because we never saw the vehicle till it was triage. We never saw the vehicle until it was broken down. But I can tell you that it did not have sludge in it. So I couldn't slam the owner for neglect, because if he had dirty oil or low oil, there would have been scuff marks or what have you. Well, the cam was corroded, not corroded, was scored and scratched up, but the cams were. Anyway, back to the general service schedule and the survey from the Car Care Council. 25% of the cars had low or dirty engine oil. 13% had low or contaminated brake fluid. 18% had dirty air filters. These are easy to fixes. 17% had inadequate cooling protection or low coolant levels. Therein lies what could be major. I mean, true, oils protect engine, but coolant, there's more to coolant than just lubricating and cooling the engine, because there are additives and additive packages in the coolant itself that stop corrosion. 16% needed new wiper blades. 27% had low or contaminated washer fluid. I know what that's like. On my little Porsche, I had to clean out the washer system because the car's been sitting for years, and the washer tank, the 2.2 gallon washer tank, was under the left front fender. And if you saw what came out of that, it looked like the dregs of some bayou. I mean, it was unbelievable. But there again, that's what happens to water if it's stagnant for a long period of time. And of course, I didn't drive the car. I don't drive the car. But you can bet your bottom dollar that right now you can go out and hit the wipers, and the windshield washers work after several weeks of work on it. Overall, during this Car Care Council survey, 89% of vehicles were in need of at least one service or repair. So I'll just share with you that what you want to do is you want to make sure that your car is into a shop no less than twice a year, 2 times, 2 or 3 times a year. And also, I'll leave you with this for this hour. If you think that you take your car in for a quick oil change and service and that's doing the right thing, you are totally wrong. Only if you have to have an oil change before a trip should that happen, because there's no way you can, no, I take that back. I've been in the business for 47 years, and I have pros in this shop, ASE trained master technicians, and you can't come into the shop and get in and out in less than 40 minutes for what people think is an oil change. Why? Because there's inspections to go with that. So it's a difficult position to be in, because so many people say, hey, well, I just want my oil change, oil and filter change. You can't do that. Why? Because if you let things go, they will turn from little minor repairs to breakdowns. And with that, we've broken this hour down, but another one's coming up. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, recently we had a for-sale on a 2014 Nissan Frontier in the shop. The customer said the vehicle wasn't running well, nothing specific, but fuel mileage was down and the vehicle had lost its zip. As he explained, it's a manual transmission, so I know what it should feel like, and it's just not right. The suggested maintenance and ignition service were up to date, and there were no trouble codes. So what was the problem? The answer lies with today's complex engines. While the maintenance schedule was on time, engines today are prone to carbon deposit formation, and fuel system cleaning is a key piece of the puzzle. Professional fuel system cleaning is an option, but a less expensive alternative is the use of a pour-in fuel system cleaner. We use Berryman B12 Chem Tool in the shop. It features Berryman's proprietary high-energy solvent, or HEST technology. We poured a bottle of Berryman B12 Chem Tool into the Frontier, and after just 1 tank of gas, MPG improved and the vehicle regained its zippiness. For more information, drive to BerrymanProducts.com. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the cultivated section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the cultivated section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, And by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemulls. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Count down to 1 minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning. Welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I thought what I would do during this hour, during our calls, of course, first is open the phones, and Hannah will take your call at 888 Car Clinic and put you in a queue, and I'll put you on the air. But I'd like to talk about the future of the ICE, and that's not ICE, that's internal combustion engine. So really, do you think that the electric cars will gain momentum? Well, we know that they have, but will that ever reach mass? And will it ever reach a point to where manufacturers are building more electric cars than they are internal combustion engine cars? And, you know, the answer to that question 2 years ago, or even 6 months ago, would be, nah, that won't happen. But I'll tell you, they're making, they being the electrification of the fleet, is making a big impact in the world of automobiles and delivery trucks and even semis. And even Tesla, and of course Tesla's done a whale of a job. Manufacturers, big oil, and the automotive car makers are throwing a lifeline to the internal combustion engine by changing oils that lubricate the internal combustion engine. It's kind of overall a nit with how much you can more get out of the internal combustion engine by changing just the oil. But it's very interesting. When I come back, I'll share that with you and take your calls at 888-227-2546. I'm Bobby Likis with today's Vehicle Maintenance Spotlight, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's a crash course in brake parts before you have a crash. Master cylinders distribute brake fluid to wheels. Calipers and wheel cylinders convert pressurized brake fluid into stopping power. Brake pads and shoes protect calipers from friction caused by stopping. To be safe, include your entire braking system in regular maintenance. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for a wide selection of quality brakes. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermoquiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Diablo Sport tuning systems give you the ability to easily boost your vehicle's power without even popping the hood. But don't take my word for it. PSCA racer Alex Rosio has been using Diablo Sport products on her Dodge Magnum since the beginning of her racing career. According to Alex, Diablo Sport tuners have been an essential part of her success. There really isn't a better line of products that offer quick tuning and diagnostics. Learn more at DiabloSport.com. And while you're there, check out the new Intune i3 Performance Programmer. That's DiabloSport.com.
Lung cancer kills more people than breast, colon, and prostate cancers combined. And 80% of those diagnosed with lung cancer never smoked or quit decades ago. If you or someone you know has lung cancer, the Bonnie J. Adario Lung Cancer Foundation can help. Text the word lungs to 50555 to help lung cancer patients and to fund the research needed to find a cure for the world's deadliest cancer. Go to lungcancerfoundation.org for more information.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. U.S. regular gasoline prices, this is dollars per gallon. And it's regular grade 87 octane for the most part. Gas prices are in all 10 regions across the United States higher than this time last year. Now, in all but one region, it's lower than this time last week. So it's interesting I'm always interested in watching gas prices fluctuate. And you hear about them going up and down, up and down. It's cheaper this week, it's cheaper this week. But ultimately, if you look back over the past year, and this is from a government site, we're looking at an average price of $2.56.8 in California, actually, on the West Coast, $3.05 a gallon. And actually, the West Coast, less California, it was up this week, but for the most part, across the United States, was down from last week, anywhere from 3 cents to 1.5 cents. But the bottom line, the gas prices are higher than they were at the same time last year. So, my question to you, and just to put into perspective, do you think that we're always going to have the internal combustion engine? Well, for those of us who like classic cars, and well, I don't know that I like classic cars. I do like the muscle car, but I like new muscle cars. And let me give you an example. What's a new muscle car? What would you think that a new muscle car would be? Well, Stan, who is a regular with us, and he is a good friend of Car Clinic's, sent me a note comparing a Chiron, and that's a Veyron Bugatti. So they came out and replaced the Veyron with a Chiron, Chiron. And this is a comparison between a Chiron and a Tesla Roadster. Now, wait a minute. Now, the Tesla's all electric, and the Chiron is a 4 turbocharged, 16-cylinder, spaceship on wheels. It's a Bugatti owned by VW. It is probably the most magnificent streetable vehicle that you could buy. I would venture to say that. So let's compare the Bugatti with the Tesla. 0 to, and I'm going to give the Bugatti first and then the Tesla. Well, Elon Musk will be happy about this. 0 to 60 miles an hour, the Bugatti 2.4 versus 1.9. Anytime you get under 2.5 seconds, 0 to 60 miles an hour, to start shaving off 1/10 or 2/10 is huge. But the difference between 2.4 and 1.9, that's a half second. That's unbelievable. 0 to 100, the Bugatti is 5 seconds, and the Tesla is 4.2 seconds. I'm amazed at these numbers. Top speed, the Bugatti's 260 miles per hour. The Tesla, 250 plus miles per hour. Quarter mile. That's another one that a lot of drag guys would be appreciative of. Quarter mile for the Bugatti is 9.8 seconds. Tesla, 8.8 seconds. Maximum range. Here, we'll get the Tesla here. The Bugatti, 286 miles. That's maximum, range. Now, that's not running fast. That's just that how far you can go on a gas tank. The Tesla, 620 miles. Now, granted, that 620 miles is not at normal road speeds and what have you, but we are looking at the maximum available, out of the car. 620 miles from the Tesla. And then the seating capacity for the Bugatti, it's a two-seater, whereas the Tesla Roadster is a four-seater. So there's the difference. But what's the biggest difference? Fabio, would you imagine what the biggest difference is? That's a loaded question, by the way. I mean, the price. The Tesla is $200,000 for this particular Roadster, okay? Take a guess at the Bugatti. It's ding, 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 ding. What?
I'm going to guess 300,000.
Well, the 3 is correct, but not 100. It's $3 million. $3 million, the Bugatti, versus $200,000 for the Tesla. So I found that very interesting, and I want to thank Stan for sending that my way. As always, we appreciate that, and I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun to even think about having the opportunity, the nickels it would take to. You have to have a lot of nickels to buy something like that. So anyway, folks, I said I would tell you about the oil. This is also from another Car Clinic listener and a friend of ours, Bill Wager. And Bill lives in Panama City, Florida. And he sent me this article that I thought was worthy. So for you, those of you who remember when 2050 was the go-to oil, and always when you hear a multi-viscosity oil, whether it's 0, 20, or 520 or 530 or whatever, the first number is the winter weight, and the W is for winter. So 10W30 is the same batch of oil that comes out of the can in the crankcase is 10 weight during the winter when it's first cranked, when it's cold. And then it is 30 weight when it warms up. 030, 530, 1030, 1530 if they made it. All those oils at operating temperature is 30 weight oil, or 30 viscosity. So how do you get both? How do you get oil that would flow? And they use what's called VI, viscosity index improvers. And the little VI improvers are molecules that contract when they're cold. They shrink, just like if you take your fist and pull your fingers together, and that's a little VI improver. And then when that gets warm, it expands and opens up. And that's how oil can be 10W30 or 0W20. And the lighter the viscosity, the faster the oil will flow through the nooks and crannies. And because, where is the oil when you crank your engine? It's in the bottom, it's in the pan. I mean, it's where it all is. Now, there's a film of oil on all the parts. And I've always wondered how much of the film would stay over how much of a period of time. And before those of us that are in the profession really understood about oil film, or way early on in our careers, I was always concerned that you crank the engine up when you first fire it up, you have, no pressure, which you don't. I mean, unlike our heart, which has to beat all the 24/7, an engine's heart doesn't beat until the engine is awakened, until it's started. And then it still doesn't have oil pressure or flow to the top of the engine. It has to pull that oil from the pump, and that's what's called pumpable. So the oil can't be molasses because it wouldn't be pumpable. Think about it. It has to be light, like mineral spirits. Now, that would be a really light viscosity. So, the lighter the viscosity, the easier and more pumpable the oil is, and it can be pushed through the nooks and crannies of the engine. So, how far can you go with that? In other words, when I say how far can you go, how light can you go? And if you go light enough, can you reduce the tolerances of the engine even further that would allow you to go more miles on an engine before the engine wore out? I mean, if you started, and I'll give an example. When Ford came out with the modular engine V8, their commercial stated, and the engine they replaced was a 302, the old 302 pushrod. I mean, those engines were around forever. They run forever. And they were sloppy, and they used oil, and they had valve guide problems and those things. But the bottom line, they were really stable engines, and other than typical timing chain issues, they didn't really have any problems. They didn't have a lot of power, but overall, they were somewhat economical, but they were not emission friendly at all. But none of the engines were at that time. So when Ford came out with the modular engine, they stated that the new modular engine, after 100,000 miles of service, clearances equaled what its predecessor started with. So if you had a 302, new 302, and then the 4.6 modular V8 from Ford, and the 302 was new and the other one was 100,000 miles, the clearances would be equal, because that's how many miles of clearance that were built into the new modular engine. And when I come back, I'll share with you about the oil that's going to be a real surprise, and it talks about nanotechnology. And we'll take your calls. Hannah will take your calls at 888-227-2546. Love to hear from you this day on the football day, as it says it were. I'll be back. We recently had the opportunity to talk tires with General Tire Senior Communications Specialist John Robinson. John explained tire speed ratings. The meaning may not be what you think.
Tire speed ratings is a tricky subject. You've got S, T, H, Z ratings and a few others, and they're all tied to miles per hour, but it's not how fast you drive. It's from a testing and a development standpoint. For instance, a T-rated tire at 118 miles an hour doesn't mean that you can drive up to that point. It's all based on developing and constructing that tire. It also depends on how you want the tire to perform and the vehicle to perform and how you drive it.
General Tire's new G-Max AS05 features smart technologies providing visual wear alerts, all-season performance, and longer tread life. It truly is a smarter tire for a smarter driver, and you can try the G-Max AS05 risk-free by taking advantage of the 45-day customer satisfaction trial. Learn more about the G-Max AS05 and other great General Tire products at GeneralTire.com. Time to go to our car clinic inbox. Jim in Indianapolis writes, Bobby, I have a 2010 Ford Explorer, and it's taking more than 10 minutes for the engine to warm up, whereas it used to take 6. I hear you guys talking about Stant thermostats. What makes them so special? Thanks, Jim. You probably heard me talking about the Superstat in particular. Superstat is a premium-grade thermostat that performs better and lasts longer. The Superstat features heavy-duty springs that help return it to a closed position to prevent cold running. A larger heat motor helps control engine temperature, while a heavier gauge steel housing gives it a high-end feel. Just hold one yourself, and you'll feel the difference. The Superstat is American-made and comes with a limited lifetime warranty. You definitely don't want to compromise when replacing your Explorer's engine thermostat. The Superstat helps maintain proper air-to-fuel ratio, which maximizes fuel economy, keeps tailpipe emissions in check, and provides optimal performance. Learn more about the Superstat at your local auto parts store or at stant.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking about electric cars and fast cars and expensive cars and regular cars. Regular cars like as I mentioned earlier, the Dodge van that we had in the shop that had at 113,000 miles, the cams lobes wore out on it. And noises and clicking and clacking and very expensive. And you know that the gentleman that owned the van, it was less expensive to replace it and replace the cylinder heads than it was to buy another car, because a van the average price $34,000, $35,000 for any car these days. So the bottom line, that's where you have to decide whether or not you're going to spend the money and put the car back into decent roadworthiness, or you're going to trade the car in. And I understand how it feels when you get to a point where, well, how much more money should I put into this car? And that really depends on whether or not it stays in your garage or in mine or in your local service garage, of course. But you'll need help with your particular vehicle to understand the best decision. And I don't mean it's your decision. You have to make the decision whether or not you're going to buy a new car. But if you're going to repair your automobile, the repair must outlast the repair bill. And that's where I've always specialized, because if I look at this vehicle as though it were mine, and we have one standard, and I'm proud of that, and proud of the Code of Ethics for the Better Business Bureau that my team was awarded this year, 2017. Of all the businesses in Santa Rosa and Escambia County, Bobby Likis Car Clinic Pre-Repair was named Torch Award winner for best ethics in business. And there are only 3 categories, and it's not automotive, it's all businesses. So, but the category are sizes of businesses. So I was proud of that, and I've mentioned that before, but I couldn't go forward without sharing it with you again. Big oil and automakers. So here's the bottom line about oil. Which is best, 020 or 10W30 or 520? Well, it depends on the engine's design. If you could design an engine with tolerances, the tolerance is the clearance between the pistons and the rods and the bearings and the cams and the journals and all those metal parts that are moving within the engine, those metal parts, you say, well, they're rubbing on each other. They really aren't. There is a film of oil that separates all of the metal parts in an engine. When that film of oil breaks down, then metal touches metal, and that's when sparks fly, literally. And you start seeing grinding, and the next thing you know, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it's not, you don't go out in the morning and have a broken part. Not that you couldn't, but that's not the way it happens. It happens over time and miles and those sorts of things. So here's what the oil companies and the car makers are doing. They're coming out with a new viscosity of oil, 0W16. 0W16. And what this will do is allow the car makers to design an engine with even tighter tolerances. And think about it, what do tight tolerances mean? Well, if you have an old house with all of the windows that leak air, you can't heat it in the wintertime, you can't cool it in the summertime. I mean, well, that's all about tolerances. So if you make the house tighter and tighter and tighter, you still have to have a really great HVAC unit in order to make sure that the house doesn't mold or mildew, because it has to exchange that air and keep that air flowing. And but the bottom line, you want the heat to stay outside in the summer and you want the cold to stay outside in the winter, and you want the heat to stay in. So with an engine, you want to do the same thing, except under all different kind of conditions. And here's the biggest challenge. This may be more information that you really care about, but it's something that you should know. The piston that goes up and down in a cylinder is the largest drag of pumping in your engine. So if the engine made a 500 horsepower, and then you subtract what it takes to move the pistons up and down, now you're down to 350 horsepower. And then you subtract what it takes to turn the camshaft over, now you're down to 200 horsepower. So you got a 500 horsepower engine, but the parasitic draw that it takes to mechanically move these things that make this power take away from the ultimate net power. And just like an engine that Ford says, oh, we've got this, engine is 412 horsepower. At the rear wheels, no. The rear wheels, a Mustang GT, that 412 horsepower had 356 horsepower. Why? Well, because you have pumping losses. You have losses from the accessories and the alternator and the water pump. And then you have losses going through the transmission for those gears. I mean, you ever turn, if you turn a faucet on in your house, it takes energy to turn the faucet. So those are the kind of things that engines have to contend with, and not only the engines, of course, the designers. But the new lubricants are meant to help the automakers build smaller turbocharged engines that are still quite powerful, and that will result in efficiency gains close to 15% compared with older models. And this is according to a consulting firm, Klein and Company. The bottom line is you're trying to get these little engines to run at a jog pace, but with a really heavy load. So what's the bottom line? It's nanotechnology. And nanotechnology requires years and years and years and millions of dollars to test in the lab and also in the car itself, in the engine itself. So at the bottom line, when it's all said and done, you might get less than 1% by reducing the amount of energy that's needed to pump a piston, 1% of increase. So how could that possibly be worth all that? Well, here it says, and I want to quote this, it says, you can change this is Gary Parsons, he's a manager in charge of relations and relationships with auto manufacturers at Chevron, actually it's Chevron's subsidiary, Oronite. It says, you may only gain 0.5%, but being able to do that overnight means a lot of difference. And that means that you can take a fleet. Now you see where I'm going here. You take a fleet of cars that get X miles per gallon, and you got 150 cars there, or 10,000 cars there, and if you can reduce the fuel consumption 0.5%, that's money you don't have to spend. Plus, the new oil will last longer than its predecessor because the engine has closer, tighter tolerances, which means the engine doesn't pollute itself internally as badly as the engine that was made before it. So I thought that's interesting. I want to thank again Bill Wager for sending me that information. I found it very interesting. I hope that you folks did too. It's a nanotechnology that new lubricants are going to be known for. And if you think that's not going to happen, you need to think again, because I don't know, the first time I ever heard of a 520 oil, I was surprised, the zero. And then much to my surprise, I learned through friends and associates that when the NASCAR goes out to perform their 2-lap qualifying laps, they run 0-0 oil because they want the engine to have less drag and to produce the fastest possible, and the engine can easily last 2 laps or 3 laps without any damage with the oil. Now, you can bet one thing, it may be light viscosity, but it's loaded with zinc and phosphorus and things that you'd never think of, and that we would never get with regular streetable oil. And streetable oil means oil that has the API starburst and meets the EPA standards. And if you think of oil, I mean, like tires, you know, we have high mileage tires have high mileage oil too. Well, you know, is that first time I ever heard of that? I said, well, that's a marketing plan or ploy. No, it's really not. If you've got a car that's got, say, 75,000 miles, then you should consider using a high mileage oil in your car versus a standard oil. But see, in the big scheme of things, there are additives and additive packages that are installed in oil when the oil is formulated, because 70 to 80% of a quart of oil is the basic crude that's, you know, been manufactured or refined. So that's the base oil. It's called base oil. So when Valvoline or Pennzoil or Mobil One or Royal Purple, when they make their oil, they use if it's synthetic, then the base oil is not the same as if it's conventional. So quickly, the main difference between conventional base oil, which is the 75 to 85% in a quart of oil, which is the volume of the oil, the difference between synthetic and conventional is the synthetic molecules are all the same size, and so they pour more smoothly, they flow more smoothly because they're all the same size. Whereas when you have conventional oil, the molecules of the base stock are different sizes. And I'll share with you this. If you had a basket of fruit and you had cherries and apples and strawberries and watermelons and plums, and you poured the basket out, it would be clumpy, and it wouldn't pour out evenly. Well, the conventional oil doesn't pour and doesn't travel that easily or smoothly through your engine. That's why synthetic oil is a given, especially if you live in North Dakota, where you're going to see really, really low temperatures. You got to have oil that is pumpable, there is that word again, when it's cold. So what do you do in Florida or California? Well, you still want, because of the wear and tear of the engine when you first crank it up, fire it up, you still want that oil that flows instantly, or not instantly, but as fast as possible. And therein is the dilemma. But it's not really a dilemma, because you can look in your owner's manual. Well, fancy that, you should do that. Look in your owner's manual, and it will share with you what that engine calls for. And most engines have it right there on the cam cover. 0.5 or 5W10 or 20 or 530. So you use that viscosity year-round, winter or summer. Why? Because you want the oil to be pumpable and to flow quickly when you first crank the engine, because most of the engine wear is when you first crank it up until you get pressure of oil flowing between the metal parts that, again, we never want to see metal on metal. That's when we see sparks fly. Anyway, kind of interesting to me, and I hope to you. We'll take your calls and get your opinions when I come back from this break. Hannah will take your call at 888-227-2546. Another question from the Car Clinic inbox. Dear Bobby, I've driven a company car for years, so I haven't had the need to shop for tires in a long time. My daughter is away at school and is going to need new tires when she comes home for a break. She drives a late model Ford Fusion. Any advice? Absolutely. Knowledge is power, so my first suggestion is to log on to a reputable website with great information. I recommend GeneralTire.com, which actually features a tire selector that allows you to search for tires by make, model, or tire size. In terms of specific tires for your daughter's Fusion, General just came out with its G-Max AS05, a terrific all-season tire with excellent handling and tread wear characteristics. And the G-Max AS05 also features a number of technological advancements that would be new since the last time you shopped for tires. Visual alignment indicators actually extend tire life by identifying vehicle misalignment, and Replace Tire Monitor technology alerts you when a change of tires is needed. That's GeneralTire.com. Good luck with your daughter's Fusion.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease. And she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Hannah will take your calls at 888-227-2546. That's 888-227-2546. I'm sharing with you a lot of information about oils and the future of the internal combustion engine. And Mazda has confirmed it has a new engine for 2019 that is a gasoline diesel. Well, it's a gasoline engine that uses the compression to fire and start the fire. So it's like a diesel, but with gasoline. There's some challenges with that. That's not new technology, but it never has been on the market, to my knowledge. I'll share with you a little bit about that, but first, let's go to New York and take a call from Carol. Carol, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding.
Oh, I think this is maybe about the third or fourth time I was able to get through to you, and I have a clutch problem, I think.
Okay.
So if I describe what happened when my car died,
okay.
You tell me if it's the clutch. But I will tell you initially, before it started doing that, what do you think it is if the tachometer and the speedometer are in sync with each other? Every time you accelerate, when it jumps up, it's like it indicates I might be going 60, and it's like at 5,000 RPMs when I know it's not. Oh, standard shift. I'm sorry, manual transmission.
Well, of course, that's impossible for the car to be going 60 miles an hour if you've got it in first gear. It's a manual transmission, so if you put it in first gear, you could turn, the engine has an automatic shutdown, so the engine will probably turn 6,500 RPM, max. So you're turning 6,500 RPM in first gear, but you're only going 15 miles an hour. Well, if you turn 6,500 in fifth gear, now you're going 115 miles an hour. So it helped me to understand exactly what it's doing, because what you're saying...
I had the clutch replaced.
Okay.
And it died the next day. Again, did the same thing. So I think it's not the clutch. That's why I said that about the tachometer and the speedometer. It was making this howling noise.
Right.
Terrible, like... And going first to second, second to third, but if I went from third to fourth, it didn't make the howling noise. This is like maybe a couple days before it actually died. And when I heard that howl like a banshee, it reminded me of my father's 1957 Mercury when I was driving it and the speedometer cable went out.
Oh, yeah.
Horrible noise.
Yeah, that.
Oh, yeah.
We've all heard that.
It wasn't grinding. It wasn't a grinding. It wasn't a squeak. It was just a howling,
and you got to go.
I was losing acceleration. I couldn't accelerate. I had to goose the gas pedal in whatever gear I was in. I can't remember, probably second or third, and it was not accelerating. And the other thing is, I had an overheating problem the next day after I had the new clutch put in, and it died the next day after I had a new clutch put in with the same sounds and same scenario. So I think it's not the clutch.
Well, but have you had this vehicle back to the shop that replaced the clutch?
They have it now because it died on the highway, and it died right before the holiday.
Well, that's
so
a funny thing, though. But Carol, you said you keep saying it died. When a car that dies, to me, it means that the engine won't run, it won't start and run, and you know, now a car that runs but won't move won't accelerate. Okay, all right. So when you say
responding to the gas, but I had to goose it to get to the side of the road. You know, that's the only way I could get it to go. Is like if I kept it depressed, it wasn't working. I had to keep, not to use that word again, you know, kept goosing it to get to where I had to go. And, the second day the day that I drove it, the next day after the new clutch was in, I drove probably just a few miles. I go to Mass in the morning, so I drove like, you know, maybe 3 miles.
Right.
When I got out of the car, I thought it was going to spontaneously combust. It was such a smell that I thought something was going to, you know, catch on fire.
Yeah, I hear you. That overheating, and that I'm really more concerned about the overheating than I am the clutch. If there's a clutch problem or some problem within the gears, that's one thing because that's relatively simple to diagnose. In other words, if you have the car is standing still, the engine is running, you put the car in first gear, you let the clutch out, the car's got to go or the engine's got to die, one of the two. The car has to move. Now,
there was a slight thump when I let the clutch back out. There was a slight thump.
Let's say it's got a slight thump. Doesn't matter. You accelerate and you go 10 miles per hour, 15. Then you put it in second or third, and you go with the same engine speed. You're going faster now. That's what transmissions do. They transmit the engine's torque to the rear wheels with different ratios, so you can keep the engine at about the same RPM, but the speed of the car is accelerated. Now, having said all that, that's easy to diagnose. The challenge with what made this engine overheat, because let's say that a water pump went bad, or maybe a lower hose was ruptured in moving, because you have to move the engine around to get the transmission in and out. And as a result, the engine is connected to the radiator, and if in a hose was comfortable in its zone, but by moving the transmission out, now you've shaken the hose around because you had to move the engine around, and the hose gave up. I'm just saying that could happen.
I have to confess one thing. There was so much going on because I was in traffic.
Yeah, right.
I did not look at the heat thing. The heat gauge. But it's the smell.
Yeah.
The smell was.
Well, but Carol, that could be an oil leak as well. Or let's back up. Here's what it could be. Now that I'm processing what you're saying, it could be that you have an oil leak from the rear main of the engine, or from the engine that is getting on the clutch, and that caused the original clutch, and they put a new clutch in and didn't fix the oil leak, that would be, there's no way that anybody would do that unless the clutch was toast, and then they went in and just put a new clutch in it, and now the new clutch has oil on it. That would give you the same symptom. Yeah, that would cause it. Now, that's a stretch.
Losing power? It was losing power.
Sure. Here's a fact. A clutch material is like a brake material. If you imagine that you put your hand on your kitchen table or the kitchen counter, and it was granite, you know, and then imagine that you put oil on your hand, and imagine now that I'm going to stand on your hand with my weight on your hand. You can still pull your fingers out from under my foot without pulling skin, because why? Because there's no friction there. But if you put your hand on sidewalk, and I put my feet on it, my weight on it, and you pulled your hand out, you're going to leave skin. That's friction coefficient. It's called a coefficient of friction. I said all that to say that brake material and clutch material depend on the friction that creates heat, and it is the friction that slows the car, and it's the friction in the clutch that makes the car go. So if you put oil on the brakes, heaven forbid you ever oil brakes, or you put oil, or oil got on the clutch, then you'd have the same symptom that you have, and you'd have the weirdest, most burnt smell like asbestos, or it's really a foul. It's different, but because you're not in the business, you may not recognize the difference. But oil burning is one, overheating. There's nothing as pungent as a coolant that is 250 degrees leaking onto an outside of an engine. I mean, you can smell it. And we put a special water pump and tube on a car one day, and the O-ring and it's a weird O-ring, I won't go into details, except that it was weeping, and we drove that car and came back and opened the hood, and you could smell the coolant leak. We could not find it. And
isn't coolant sweet smelling, or is it?
Well, it's sweet. Yes, it is. It's sweet when it's raw coolant inside the car. It's really sweet. When it's under the engine, it's a burn sweet. It's kind of like, well, there's
was it? Yeah, I
like
thought it was going to spontaneously combust.
Well, no, it won't do that. Well, oil could, though. Here's the bottom line, and here's what.
It did not have a petroleum smell. It was not a petroleum smell.
I got you. Well, to your knowledge, it wasn't.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. All right, so here's what you have to do. You don't wait until they call you and say, okay, your car's fixed or what have you. You call them Monday and be proactive and say, I want to come down, and I want you to go down and have a face-to-face with this shop owner or the manager and the technician and say, hey, what's up here? And show me.
They thought they got a faulty clutch.
Well, and they may have. In my heart of hearts, I do not believe that. In my heart of hearts, whatever caused your original clutch to go out affected their clutch. That's the bad news. The good news is they should have caught that to start with. So now it's up to them to fix the car.
Except for the labor. The labor was 2 or 3 times the cost of the part, which is unbelievable.
Well, yeah. But you haven't. They haven't finished the job yet because how long did it last before you had to go back in?
Not even 24 hours.
Well, I rest my
and
case.
It died again. The same thing happened.
You paid the bill. You're done. They're not done. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
You paid the bill. The contract is over, but the house isn't finished, and they need to finish the house. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to find out Monday exactly what's up, and then next week I want you to call me back because this is up to them. I'm gonna and I'm a shop owner, and I'm not pointing the finger because I've been in that position, but they have to step up. They have to take care of you as their customer because you gave them the dollars and you gave them the authorization to fix the car, and they fixed it in less than 24 hours. Didn't work, so now they got to step up. You got it?
Yes, sir. I just hope that they were already making comments about me having to pay the labor again.
Really?
Somebody in the office was. Somebody in the office, not the owner.
No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I'm glad you called me. It doesn't work that way. If you have to, you have them call me. I'm in the book.
God bless you.
You call me. You call me. You have them call me during the week, and I'll take the call.
If I could get that car to Florida, I'd be there in 3 days.
Well, by the time you got here, it'd be burned up anyway.
Oh, I know. No, it won't go.
Okay, my dear. Thank you for your confidence in me, and feel free to reach out to me, and just, we're in the book here. Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
It's not going to make me get us automatic, I'm telling you.
No, I know. No, you do what you got to do. Thank you, Miss Carol.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Let's go to New York, talk to Vincent. Vincent, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yes, good morning, Bobby. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. And you?
Okay, my name's Vincent. I'm a process server in the state of New York, and I do a lot of traveling.
Okay.
I happen to be on the road right now. I've got a 2010 Nissan Frontier.
Okay.
And it's a 4-cylinder.
Right.
I get very poor gas mileage. I know I don't look for good gas mileage on the hills or whatever may have you, but I'm supposed to do better on the road. I'm using Bosch Platinums as far as spark plug goes. My air filters are new.
Well, wait, Vincent. Let me ask you this question. Historically speaking, what was the best average gas mileage on the road that Frontier ever delivered?
I think about 18 and a half miles per gallon.
And what is it delivering today?
I'm getting about, I think 14, something like that.
Well, you think 14. You don't sound. You're not convincing me that you know what it's getting. I mean, if you're using the computer to read out, I mean, if this is an ongoing issue, you should check. I mean, you have to check at least 2 tanks of fuel to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples, because I don't want you to make a phone call and give you good advice, and then you still have the same issue. And the issue is you think you're getting about 14. You know, I can tell you what my car gets, not about what it gets. My car gets 26.7 miles per gallon at 79 miles per hour average, and it does it time after time after time. It doesn't matter, you know, rain or shine. Well, rain, I get about a mile per gallon less in the rain. I'm sure it's the water, you know, pushing the tires, or the tires pushing the water. So I'm saying to you, I want to hear a little more convincingly that your car gets 16.8 when it used to get 18.6. And if you can't do that, then I need for you to keep a log on 2 tanks and average those 2 tanks. You are burning the low octane fuel in that Frontier, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. You stay with that. Make sure the tire pressure is where it should be. And Vincent, you could pump the tire pressure 3 PSI over the factory specifications. And let's see what. But now, because it's a pickup, you might not want to pump the rear up, because the rear without a load, you know, pickup trucks don't have much of a load. So here's what I'm going to let you do. And with all due respect, with our time that we have today, I'd like for you to check this week. Specifically the gas mileage. You're on the road all the time as your server, and then call me next week earlier in the show with some specifics as to what that vehicle is getting. And you're in the car right now, so you can stop and fill it and drive it today and drive it next week, and then call me next Saturday 10 till noon Eastern time, and then let's take it from there and pick up where we left off. You got it?
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you. So there you go, folks. It's always best that we have all of the facts. It's funny, he's a process server. Vincent, you should know that. so anyway, that's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I still have a lot of information, but you know what? Next week is another week. I wish for all of you football teams to win, especially mine. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
HEST, or high-energy solvent technology, is what differentiates Berryman products from other additives, providing a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. But don't take our word for it. Here's another testimonial. James was having a number of issues with his vehicle: lagging, choking up, dying at idle. 1 can of Berryman B12 Chem Tool made the difference. After a 60-mile round trip, his engine was, his words, purring like a kitten. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at berrymanproducts.com. That's berrymanproducts.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P-Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, loaded, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul. You warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here.